Yes, yes. Welcome in. It's the Tim McKernan Show podcast. Timothy, Michael, McKernan, Jackson, Bennett, Burkett. The show is presented by James Carlton, the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net. Mark Hanna, Evergreen Wealth Strategies. He's very proud this morning on TMA to be the 9 o'clock hour sponsor when we got the call from the barge worker and then the gentleman who I think was going to pay us a compliment. But couldn't help but accidentally drop an F-bomb. And Jackson, what is the policy in that situation?
It's a one strike. You can't.
Is that right? You can't risk it. I think that's the right move.
Yeah, if you say the F-bomb, I can dump it obviously, and it's okay. But then if I'm the guy running the board and I keep that person on who's already proven that they are swearing, and they do it again and it doesn't get dumped for whatever reason, then yeah, that's on me. So. Save your own ass. I think you're doing the right thing. And he knew it. He knew it. Yeah, it's like when you're arguing balls and strikes, you're playing a dangerous game.
He knew it. You're fine. You're fine. Jackson, this is a program where we welcome the listeners to send in anything. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. That is where you can send them in. Also, Seth Goldcamp of Design Air Heating and Cooling is a sponsor of the Oh, okay. I think you're going to be very pleased with my gift that I just shipped out. T. McKernan at STL.com.
I wonder, you have to, sometimes when we play drops on TMA, Martin will say, I wonder what the context is. This GIF is a prime example of I wonder what the context is. Is that a puka shell bracelet? God. That's a rare look. It's like hypnotizing, too, because it's a very quick GIF.
Oh, God. All right, let's see what I got here in this QFTA file. Anything you got going? You got a wedding next week.
Mm-hmm.
This is called filling time while I scroll to my... you got your wedding, Private Citizen Pete's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And the reception, is it somewhere on the hill?
River City Casino.
Oh, River City Casino. Why was I thinking there's something on the hill? I thought you had
rehearsal dinner.
Got
I believe
it.
so. Yeah.
Are you going to play some poker? What are you going to do? Huh?
Yeah, I could see myself. I'm a blackjack guy. Problem with blackjack is, though, I just like playing blackjack. Like, I know you can go on a little run, but I just want like enough money where I can play like an hour of blackjack, and if I come out winning $50 or staying even, that's a W to me, because I think blackjack's fun.
I enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of to me in a way like slot machines. I don't
bit.
really consider it to be that much of a game of skill, although I guess there is an element of it depending on your number of deck situation.
The problem is everybody has to play a certain way, otherwise your style is rendered useless.
Right.
If you play by the book and the guy next to you doesn't, it doesn't matter.
I don't like to sit at third base at blackjack, i.e. the last guy before the dealer, because then I'm like, I don't want to fuck everybody up because I really don't care and I'm not all that sophisticated with it. So that's what you'll be doing.
Yeah, but it'll be like a wedding reception. It's just but you can just hang out at the casino too. It'd be cool.
Right,
I like River City.
Sounds like you got yourself a nice little pony set up.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
We're going out of town the following week. Going back to Denver.
Nice.
Going to a show at Red Rocks.
Super cool. Who's playing?
Ryan Bingham again. I got cucked during that show at Red Rocks. I feel like there's audio of it. My wife yelling, "Ryan, I love you," and I'm just sitting there, just like a helpless cuckold.
Right, but when you are looking on Instagram and Ella Reese pops up and you scream, "Ella, I love you,"
it's true.
That's your retribution.
True. Yeah, that's true. And when I DM with the bot that runs her OnlyFans,
that you're spending upwards of $75 a month on.
Yeah, from my slush fund.
Right, and then they send you a blurry picture, unlocked for $10.
Right.
Yeah, and it's her hiking.
Right, but when I build out the family budget, I allocate $2,500 a month to Ella Reese's OnlyFans.
Right. It's a fudge factor.
And so I guess it's only fair that I get cucked since I get to communicate with the guy who runs Ella Reese's OnlyFans on the regular. Participate in the program. We are on live on YouTube. Big Worm is excited to see us. Tim and Jackson, Roman Pollock's Wrench. If you guys hadn't pursued journalism/radio broadcasting, do you have an idea of what career/occupation you guys would be doing instead? I'm anxious to hear the answer to this question from you.
Well, I went to school, sport management, most of the people in that, it's pretty wide, like, jobs. I would say mine's on one end of the spectrum. There's people who aren't in the world of sport who have the same degree, and that's the other end. But working for a team is like kind of what you do it for.
Yeah.
Game day operations, ticket sales, this, that, the other. So something working with a sports team or teaching, coaching. Obviously, it runs in my family.
So I'm saying this from a place of sincerity.
Uh-huh.
Your decisions were not, and to date, are not guided by money.
Currently, no. Not like the only thing. Money is obviously important, but
it's not, when you were sitting there at 18, 19, 20, 21, you weren't going, okay, if I go into finance, or
No.
if I go into law,
I knew that was never for me. Finance, like math isn't my thing. It's just hard for me to grasp. And so I knew finance wasn't going to ever be my thing, or business school. I was pretty close to minoring in business. I needed
would you like to have that putt back?
No.
Okay.
No. Because it would have been more expensive. I might have to stay an extra semester, and no thank you. But yeah, wouldn't say guided by money. No, I figured that experience and enjoyment out of work was more valuable at the time. And you go back and forth on it. Those who have jobs that they enjoy and love to do, but don't make as much money, envy those who make a ton of money, and those who make a lot of money but don't really love their job at all, envy the person who loves their job.
I know I talked about this, I feel like about a month or two ago. This is Professor Scott Galloway. I think it's called the Prof G podcast.
Nice.
I think he's Columbia University or New York University. And he says one of the things that parents or advisors, when they speak at graduations, high school graduations, mistakenly do with impressionable 17 and 18-year-olds is tell them to follow their passion. And he says that is not the way to achieve happiness in life. Achieve happiness in life by doing that which you are good at, which will then lead to the most income, which will then lead you to be able to have the money to spend time on your passion. And for years, and when I say years, Jackson, I'm not talking about like the last 5 years. I'm talking about 30 plus years. I always tell this little anecdote about watching a Notre Dame press conference when Lou Holtz was the head coach. And he said, the key to happiness in life is finding something you love to do and finding somebody to pay you to do it. Mm-hmm. And I've lived by that. And now I sit here at 48 years old and I wonder who is right. Is it Lou Holtz or is it Scott Galloway?
I think both of them are like ideal circumstances, being good at something, making a lot of money, then focus on your passion, and then being good and passionate about something, have someone pay you. That'd be great. I think for the majority of people, that's just not necessarily going to happen,
The passion play.
The passion play, and also like being like super like what Lou Holtz was saying, like being passionate and great at something and finding someone to pay you for it, I think both of those things are right. I think both of them are right. I just think it's hard to achieve for everybody.
The thing is, the only thing that I really was even in a mode of consideration, and it just was a late night dinner with me and my dad at Steak and Shake on Hampton, which is no longer there. Or Steak and Shake on Chippewa by Ted Drews.
That one's not there.
That one's not there. The one at Hampton's there. I think I was in college. I think it would have had to have been. And he goes, "You ever think about just like maybe going into law school?" And I'm like, where's this coming from? Just I don't know. And my dad never at all, I don't think with me, my brothers, or my sister, like said, "Hey, do this," not at all. So I feel like he picked his spots, and I think he knew I was so passionate, and not only passionate, but convinced, mistakenly, by the way, that I was going to be the Cardinal broadcaster, that it was pointless to tell me otherwise. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that was kind of like one of his moments where he decided, I'm going to float this out there. And I think it's because at the time he was starting on the new ownership group at KFNS. This is 1997, so he's around My guess is, because I remember Bob Ramsey, I don't think Bob would mind me telling this story, when I interned there in 1998, going, I would do something different. This is a bad business, and I would do something different. I remember like rocked my world. I'm like, man, this guy's calling Cardinal games, and he's saying this. I certainly understand it now. Hell, I understood it probably 5 years later. But I don't know who else would have told him that, but I think that's where it was coming from, because it's not like he knew the on-air side of it. Yeah, I don't know. I also don't think, like, if you are a longtime listener, I would imagine you're probably a listener to this podcast, then there's usually a lot of overlap. But I also know there are plenty of people who've come to this podcast who started to learn about us because of Balloon Party, right. So you're not. But the person I am now versus the person I was when this show started, by this show I mean TMA in 2004, but even much more so going back to like 1995, 1996, I would have brought, I don't even know what I would have done. I don't think the commitment was there to commit to studies, to be, maybe I could have gotten into law school. Shit, I don't know. I guess, maybe.
You have a really good memory.
Got a good memory, but I don't know. I just was such a different. You wouldn't even have recognized me. You wouldn't recognize me in 2004, as far as like behavior goes, and I just don't. I think it's like, okay, I can picture myself as a 48-year-old like doing this or that, but that's not who I was when I was 17 years old and starting school at Missouri.
It's kind of the messed up thing about life in a way, adult life. It's just like at 18 years old, you make such a big decision that, like, at the time is floated to you, there's a million different factors going in. Where can I go to have the most fun? You know, where are my high school friends going? Where's this at? And you don't realize that, like, if you were to look back 15 years later, it's like, man, you made a massive decision at 18 years old, and you're probably not right to make that decision. That's why I always respected people, looking back on it, who took a gap year. You know,
you think a gap year is a nice place?
Who took a year to do so, whether it be work or travel, you know, if you're fortunate enough to be able to travel or just work, to, like, fully reflect on, like, what do I want to do? Like, take the year. It's bold play because all your friends are going to college. Yeah. And I think it's, I really respect those who made that decision.
Yeah.
And you can still kind of do school also in a gap year so that you're not super behind. Like, you can take some online courses so that you can still graduate in 4.5 years. I respect it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's easy to, like, go back and go, what the hell was I thinking? Why didn't? But I mean, I once I knew I was going to Missouri, I stopped. You had to go to class at SLU, so that wasn't an option. But I just was like, I'm going to Mizzou. I think I got like down to like a 2.7 or something like that. And I say that, I hope that doesn't come off as, you know, because like I was some ridiculously good student. But I just didn't give a shit.
Sure.
And it's not like I was a 4.0 student at all. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to Mizzou. It doesn't fucking matter. And so, whatever, I'm going to graduate. Who cares? And then at Missouri, once I got into the journalism school, and the way it was set up back then was you had to get in after your first 2 years. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to class in my junior and senior year because it's not going to matter what my grades are. It's going to matter what is my on-air, you know, presence, delivery, and so on. And so that was also really, again, looking back on it, I guess it worked out, but it was really wrong. It's like a guy winning a poker hand by playing it just totally wrong, didn't have the right cards, didn't make the right plays, and then stumbled into it. But it was really risky and stupid and a waste of, you know, education at SLU in Missouri. But to go... I was never in a position of a choice, you know, as the person in the YouTube chat, Roman Polak's Wrench, of going, okay, I'm thinking about law school, or I'm thinking about medical school, or I'm thinking about pursuing an MBA, or being a sportscaster. It was 100% sportscaster.
Right.
So I can't.
Yeah.
I can reverse engineer career decisions, like the very first one being, do I go to Little Rock for television or I go to Monterey, California for television? And then it's like a choose your own journey, and then where things go. Things change substantially, I'm sure, if I would go to Monterey, California. I don't know if I ever would have come back to the Midwest if I go to Monterey, California in 1999. And then some decisions with television in the mid-aughts with Denver and New York. And I guess even recently with the radio thing, with an opportunity to do afternoons at KFNS in 2010, I think it was, 2009, 2010, or staying here and taking a chance, which I think was probably the most substantial decision, which is weird, I guess, as far as this show's history, because then Inside STL took over the IP ownership of TMA. Hey, brief aside, even though I know it won't be a brief aside.
Sure.
We like doing arbitrary percentages. We're doing it with the attendance, I suppose, over-unders on attendance. And how about Martin? He was like within 10 of the attendance at yesterday's Busman special at the Cardinal game.
Good on the big shush.
Yeah. What percentage of TMA listeners think that I pay you, Doug, and Martin?
Percentage of TMA listeners
I think it's large.
on May 22nd, 2025? 20%.
God, I think it's higher than that.
I think it's about.
I could be off.
Okay.
I think it's higher than that.
Yeah. Sub 50?
I think it might be higher than that. I don't know. There's the TMA listeners, and then there's the people who listen and just like enjoy it, and then there's the people who are really, 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 really into it, and then like read things that aren't necessarily accurate in social media bubbles. So I don't know. I guess if you're talking about the two different things, I think the casual listener wouldn't even know that Inside STL owns the IP. Right. But like the hardcore, I think the hardcore would think that I pay and then make decisions and so on and so forth. I was meeting with a group of guys who were interested in doing a show earlier this week, and they're like, "Oh, you don't pay Martin?" And they're not like, I don't know, whatever term you'd want to use. You don't pay Martin, Doug, and Jackson? I go, no. And they go, I thought you owned the show. And I go, well, I own the intellectual property of the show, but I don't own Hubbard. And so that's who they go, really? So, okay, so their paychecks come from Hubbard. They don't come from me. I go, yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, wow.
I would say that's probably the most popular misconception, like in that regard, like of the people who think they pay you. It's because that they know that Inside STL owns something, and they think it's like owns the show, it owns the IP. And there's
and I'm not faulting people for it, because it certainly is convoluted.
Right. It's different, unique.
Yeah, it's very unique. When the Business Journal came in here and interviewed me about, that's really what they wanted to talk about, is that arrangement, and if it's commonplace now. And I think it's more commonplace now because people are doing shows on their own platforms, or I shouldn't say on their own platforms, but utilizing YouTube, and they're self-employed.
Right. And then
so owning of IP kind of goes without saying. Who else would own it? But if you work at a corporate radio station, television station, you work for a podcast network, my guess is you don't own your IP. And if you recall, I think the time that this maybe got the most attention in the last 5 years would be the Call Her Daddy thing with Alex Franklin, trying to negotiate to make sure they own their IP, and eventually got it. And my God, she signed like I don't even know what it was, a 9-figure deal with Spotify, I think.
Yeah, I think they just.
So I mean, it's an incredibly astute thing. And I told the story, and I think the Business Journal actually included this in that article, that Lisa Ann is the reason why I do. And I didn't know Lisa Ann at the time. I just happened to see her talking to Howard Stern about the importance of owning IP, which is why, with as many places as we've been able to keep the stuff with us. But when people assume that I make the decisions or pay you guys, I don't blame them for that. Sure. Why would they know? I mean, I don't know what goes on at their job, so why would they know? But yeah, just percentage-wise, I'm curious on that. So you think 20%? I go over on that. But again, I guess I'm thinking of the like hardcore TMA.
Yeah,
the casual like 101 listeners.
They might not have any idea.
They don't know. No, they don't care. Well, these guys are relatively entertaining, or I fucking hate these guys. Take your pick, whatever.
Right, can't turn the fucking dial.
That's right. Let's see. I'm looking through the YouTube chat. MD 2020, what a glorious day for a QFTA. Doing something every day you hate is not worth the money. That's from Arthur Fonzarelli, also known as Fonzie.
Yeah, hate, yes, I would say.
Hate is different.
Hate is different than like understanding that this puts food on the table. And I'm sure, I'm obviously unmarried with no children. If you are married with children, or even just have children, I'm sure, that you might hate it, but this is
One of your favorite films, George Clooney, Up in the Air, shot here in St. Louis. I got to see the bar scene being shot with the great Via Farmiga, who looks a little like Julia Ann, and I didn't get a chance to tell her that.
I'm sure she would appreciate it.
I agree with you on that. He loved the fluidity of his life. He had an apartment, I think it was in Omaha, Nebraska.
That looked like
textbook bachelor pad.
Robert De Niro's place in Heat, which is a mansion with no furniture.
That's right. Yeah. Somebody who's house poor in the Central Corridor, that kind of look. And I would know, because that was me 20 years ago.
Sure.
He liked the ability to just pick up and go. And of course, you lose that.
Yeah. Then the J.K. Simmons scene where it's like, how much did they have to pay you to give up on your passions? Because he got laid off and he was a cook in college. And George Clooney asked him, how much did they offer you to give up on your dreams? And he says like $51,000. Yeah. It's a really good time capsule movie.
It is.
Right after 08.
Right, the Great Recession. It's a great recession
really good time capsule
film. MD 2020 says, true to, I guess, Fonzie, but also a lot of things people love doing don't pay the bills.
Yeah.
So the key on this, and this is the thing that Scott Galloway, Prof G, talks about, and this is the part that I think is the most important part of the conversation, is that the passion industries, the passion jobs, usually have dozens or hundreds or thousands of people who want the one or two jobs that are available, and therefore rarely, which I agree with on MD 2020's point, will a passion job pay. Now, if you do hit in the passion job and you are irreplaceable financially, I suppose, then you can make some money. But starting out, you're going to be brutal. That's why so many people who, for example, become huge actors or actresses in Southern California were, within the last 20 years, waiting tables.
Yeah.
So that's
or
the
Nepo
gig.
babies.
Or Nepo babies. Is that becoming more of a thing, or is it just getting more attention now?
More attention.
It's always been there?
I think it's always been. Yeah. I mean, you look at, Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, and Nepo babies have always been. And I don't think it's wrong. Bill Simmons had this take the other day, saying, he's like, it's not like when he's talking about Patrick Schwarzenegger in White Lotus. He's like, well, when you have two famous acting parents and they produce a kid who's a great actor, like, is anyone surprised? Like when Ken Griffey Sr. had a great baseball playing son, is anyone surprised?
Right.
Like, it's genetics,
Well, there's genetics, and they also know how to guide.
Yes.
If the person wants to get into it. So help me God. And I'm not saying this is a joke, but I mean, if my kids said they wanted to pursue this, I don't even think it's going to be around.
Well, yeah.
You know
Not
what I mean?
in this capacity, yeah. It'd be different, but I think there'd be...
Yeah, I mean, by the time, even my 7-year-old, by the time he's in a position, 15 years?
I'll be curious.
I mean, do you think there's local news?
No.
Absolutely not.
But podcasts and...
I don't know. I mean, I guess.
I think there will be. I think it might be a different space. I think the space will get weeded out a little bit.
Well, I mean, as long as you have a bunch of people willing to do it for nothing, that's going to exist.
Sure.
Still, the percentage of people that are actually generating, I don't know. I mean, we'll set the bar super low, 6 figures of revenue annually of all the podcasts. Like, what percentage are doing that? And what do you think?
Of podcasts that are actually generating revenue, less than 1%.
Yeah.
Sure. Like real revenue, not like...
Like, what I'm using as a baseline is $100K. I mean, we're not talking about something you can live on.
Right.
Again, operating on the premise that there's more than one person. If you're just opening up your laptop and you can make $100,000 that way, but who's selling it and who's, doing everything?
Maybe under 0.5%, actually.
Yes, that's... I mean, it's not even. It's to me, it's 0.0 and then something. Because again, but that's a reflection of how many podcasts there are.
Right.
Let's see. Galloway is more realistic. Most passions do not pay. Very lucky to get both. I went from teaching to sales due to financial reasons, and I am more happy now, even though teaching was my passion. That's from caller Buzz.
Sure.
Tim is like the crowd in Rocky IV when they all turned on Rocky, or turned for Rocky. Tim is like the crowd in Rocky IV. when they all turned for Rocky. Tim is like the crowd in Rocky 4. Do you follow that?
No, not in the slightest.
I'm trying to, because Rocky 4 is, of course, the greatest of all Rockies. But I don't know. Are we no longer on YouTube?
I see it. We're on YouTube.
Okay. I don't know what happened. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, everything's still.
Huh. What the hell happened? All right. I don't know what the hell happened, Jackson. I was about to go into my email, but there were so many YouTube comments. I was trying to interact with those. I want to try to follow that. Arthur Fonzarelli. He says paying bills is overrated. Let's see. Wow.
That's a good stance.
Wow. In a shocking turn of events, I open up, I guess this is the TMA Reddit. The TMA Reddit, the first thing I see at the top is a post in the TMA subreddit title, Jackson Appreciation Post, giving him props for ending clips.
Oh, nice.
Mike Ryder, executive producer, says he's learned more about TMA from the TMA subreddit. He's a big fan of it. I still wonder if there are two different ones.
There could be. I don't. Yeah, again, it's when I open that Reddit page, when I open Reddit, the app, just the app in general, it's a quick move to that search bar, so I don't get anything in my feed that I'm not looking for.
Let's see. I wish Tim would call me Daddy. That's from Sean Mandrell.
Understandable.
You remember the Mandrell sisters?
The Mandrell
Barbara,
sisters?
Louise. They were country music acts in the early 80s, had the big hair.
Nice.
Be right up your alley. Oh.
I'm just curious, where were people, going to, record stores and just, I see that sometimes, and they're like...
See what sometimes?
Well, you see,
the Mandrell sisters with people at record stores. Why?
People, going to record stores just sitting there listening to music. I can only remember, really, a time, I remember iTunes at the beginning, having to pay $1.29 per song. Thinking about that now in the days of streaming music is insane.
Well, think about when there was a Peaches record store. That was the name of it.
Yeah, in South City, right?
That's right. Where the Chick-fil-A is now.
Right.
At Hampton and Chippewa.
Yeah. What school was that right behind that?
It's public. I don't care. I mean, it was like the whole lot. And there were thousands of records. Jeez. Thousands of records. Yeah. And that's how, I believe, my first album was the Thriller album.
Good album, too.
And I bitched and now I am now operating like my father.
Sure.
This crap goes on. Where was I? I was with my 3-year-old. Oh, we ran into Walgreens. I had to get my herpes medication.
It's a mild case.
And I always like to take my kids with me when I do that.
Teach them young.
And my 3-year-old goes, Dad, car. Can I get it? And I go, no. It's like for the Francesa. Can I come? I'm like, no, we're not. I'm not even entertaining this shit.
Yeah.
Stop it. We're gonna learn young, both about the herpes meds and about we're not just buying shit just because it's there.
Yep.
The fuck you think this is? And my dad, I guess, after what had to have been so much nagging regarding getting the Michael Jackson Thriller album, and I don't know what I would have been, 6. He goes, okay, if you can do 25 push-ups, so then I worked to be able to, because I'm 6, worked to be able to do 25 push-ups, and I did it. I don't think he thought I was going to do it. And then I think it became, I'm not doing this, Missy. I don't want to do, And I don't think it was the purchase so much as that he had to get up off the couch and then drive to Peaches. Even though it was 2 minutes away.
6 minutes tops.
That was, not even. Yeah. That was the issue. And by the way, on the other catty corner of Peaches was a White Castle.
Oh,
in that
really?
Target parking lot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the McDonald's didn't exist. On the other side, there was a White Castle. And then somebody drove through it one night, and that was the end of it. We always were losing things in South City because people would either drive through them or people would be tossed out of them.
You know what? That's odd, because that happened to us in Olivet. There was a...
People were driving through things?
There's a store. I'm not going to mention it. There's a store...
Yeah, no YOLO on this.
No free ads. Where not once but twice people drove through the front glass windows of it, and so much so that this store, which is probably has thousands of stores nationwide, said, all right, we're done. They were probably
they had enough.
Well, they were probably a corporate. Why do people keep driving? They were like, is it off the side of the road?
Insurance.
No, it's in a parking lot, and yet people are still driving through the front of it. It's really, it's odd that people can do that.
It happened. Yeah, somebody drove through the White Castle at Hampton and Chippewa.
That's a brick building, too. That's probably not easy to get through.
It was a tiny little castle then, like an Eat Right looking thing, or whatever that thing is down by the ballpark. Is that an Eat Right?
I passed it on Tuesday. They Eat Right closed, but they...
Well, there's a castle
but they
on
reopened it. But they opened it on a different
there's an
name.
actual castle on, I'm trying to think, is it Olive or Locust? Because our offices are right there. I don't know if it's still there. Okay. Anyway, that was on the southwest corner of Hampton and Chippewa. Peaches was on the northwest corner.
Oh, I know which building you're talking. It's off Locust. I know it's right on the corner.
Yes,
there. Yeah.
That's
I know
right. That's where our Inside ST offices were for like a decade.
Gotcha.
Tim finished the Bin Laden documentary last night and really enjoyed it. Went in with an open mind and was pleasantly surprised and informed. Have you heard that thing hyped up at all? Like, usually there are these shows that appear on a streaming service and everybody's talking about it. I talked a little bit about it on TMA. I don't want to assume people heard me talking about it. It's a 3-part series, Finding Bin Laden. I believe it's something like that, on Netflix. And it's so good. I kind of have this thing with Netflix documentaries, and I'm like, eh.
It's case by case.
I guess what I would say, if I would, like, what do you mean by it's a lot of secondary or social media sources, and that isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we could throw one of those together, but they had some outstanding primary sources. The only people involved that I would say they didn't have were President George W. Bush and President Barack Obama. But Leon Panetta's on there, and he was the head of the CIA at the time.
Right.
Is an example. I mean, not like he was the only one, but I mean, it was really well done. And I don't know if it's funny, whatever adjective you'd want to use on this, because Martin came in today. I think he said it during a break. Hell, I don't know, that he and Kim watched it last night. Went through all 3 of them last night. God bless him. That's packing a lunch. That's about 6 hours, probably 4.5 hours. That when I talked about it briefly, the guy was adamant that the way that the story is told, it just makes no sense. Like that Bin Laden's just hanging out on the 3rd floor. They get him, and that conveniently they had to blow up the helicopter. And I have to say, I understand it. I'm not just I've always kind of wondered, like with a bunch of shootings going on in the first couple floors, like how he is not
alerted.
Yeah, I don't.
Or
the point
armed.
that they, as the story goes, they whisper to him, and
Yeah, right. Well, they whispered to his son.
They whispered to his son, and they had somebody who spoke one of the various languages and was able to get him to peek around the corner. Either way, as far as a surprise, great show, really well done. I mean, really well done. And I guess I'm overselling it because I hadn't heard about it going in. Have you heard about it in any capacity?
No, in fairness, though, I got rid of my Netflix account like 2 months ago.
And that was why?
Consolidating streaming services. Like, I watch almost HBO Max is where my main stuff. Like, I watch a ton of shows on there, and they always have good movies. And then there's a couple of different like free services for movies that you watch a couple ads, and they have great movies. Tubi, they're free, I guess. Really great stuff. Apple TV is something I keep because I like that a lot. So I just don't. I'll get my Netflix account back. Like, I'll resubscribe for a month or 2 again soon, especially because if they put something out that I need to see, like movie or otherwise, I'll get it. But I had not heard anything about it.
Yeah, I hadn't either. And so we got done watching. What the fuck we were watching? Oh, we love that.
John Hamm show.
Yeah, have you watched that?
Not yet.
You would. That is like. There's not a doubt in my mind. You would love that. Joe Buck's daughter's in it.
Right.
Natalie,
right. I had some mutual friends with her. But no,
yeah, I think maybe she's a year or 2 older than you.
Yeah, yes. But I need to watch it because it's right up my alley. And I liked our boy John Hamm, although John Hamm, courtside at the Knicks game last night, and I see him everywhere but the Cardinal game. I don't see him at Missouri Tiger games, but he's out there saying the Chiefs.
Wow, John Hamm taking shrapnel. Wait till this gets back to him.
I just want him to know that, home is where the heart is. Although I would love to sit courtside at the Knicks game for Game 1.
What would you do?
Finals. I would, whatever.
Would you be sitting next to Rihanna?
Hopefully Chalamet.
Kardashian? You'd be more interested in sitting next to Timothy Chalamet.
Ball knower, yeah. I don't need to be around. Or Larry David was there last night. That'd be, and with
you'd enjoy
Susie,
that more than anything.
There was a great tweet last night when Halliburton was doing the choke signal and he was pointing at the Knicks fans, and there was someone was quote tweeted and said it was Susie saying, "God damn it, Larry, he's yelling at you because you won't shut the fuck up. God damn it, you bald fuck." The idea that Tyrese Halliburton would be pointing at him. Because in Curb, he did trip Shaq at a Lakers game.
That's correct. I think that was like episode 5 in the history of the show.
Great episode.
How many games you fellas see Mizzou football win in this season? That's from Fonzie. Here's the honest answers. The number was set at 7.5. The whole thing, and I've been happen to be correct the last 2 years. I was over in 2023. I went under on the win total in 2024. I got no read now. And a lot of that, I think, probably going forward is going to be difficult to do because rosters have so much turnover now.
Right. I know. We don't even know who's quarterbacking the team.
There'd be anything I would tell you would be 100% guessing, and it's not just exclusive to Missouri. It's, of course, their opponents, too.
Totally.
I have no idea what the hell Kansas is going to be like, much less take a look at who they got to play at home. And it's great from an entertainment standpoint. I got hotels for the weekends at Kansas, South Carolina, Roll Tide, and A&M. So that's 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got invited to stay at a house with some people, which we really want to do, for down at Auburn.
Ooh.
I've never been to Jordan or
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Jordan Hare.
Down on the plains.
Yeah.
Where do you fly into for an Auburn game?
The house is like in between Atlanta and Auburn, so we fly to Atlanta.
Okay, that makes it easier.
Yeah, so I really want to do that. But they play Alabama one weekend, then Auburn the next weekend.
It's almost like choose between the two.
Or just being a parent.
That too.
So maybe I'll take but the 3-year-old going down to Mizzou game. I mean, that's so negative EV.
Well, staying over would be tough, because then what are you going to do after the game?
Yeah, because I like to go to Willie's and say I'm 28 and in medical school.
And then right to my house around 11 when the music starts
God,
popping
I was
off.
at my house for like 9 hours after the Auburn game.
But you guys are in the backyard area, right?
Right.
Which is nice.
It was, it couldn't have been more amusing. It's huge.
Massive.
Like they got the lots.
I think they bought that whole lot behind it for that exact reason. It's a great spot.
It was, I couldn't have had more fun. I just like my wife are like, oh, good, we have something to look forward to.
Oh, yeah. Friday
Missouri
afternoons.
games, good or bad, whatever.
Friday afternoons on a nice day. Any of the bars, but my house backyard is always kind of my favorite because you just hang out there.
You just pony
cheap
up.
beers. But Big 12 is my spot, but my house backyard on certain days is awesome.
Let's see what I got here. Does Prabula not have the job locked up? That's from Brendan Campbell.
Not from what I've read. It's that I would assume if I had to bet right now, I would bet Bo Prabula would be under center for the season. But I think him and Sam Horner. Sam Horner's a 4-star recruit. He obviously hasn't played a lot of football in the last couple of years, but there's a reason that he was highly recruited. He's a good player.
I guess I'll say this. It doesn't work this way necessarily, but I feel pretty good about saying this. If Sam Horn is Missouri's starting quarterback and Bo Prabula is healthy at the start of the year, in other words, Sam Horn beats him out, it isn't because there's an injury, that's a great thing for Missouri football.
I would agree.
You would agree?
Yes.
So you're following how I arrived at my conclusion.
Right.
Because Prabula's the one who got the NIL money. Prabula, you might not know, and I don't. He quarterbacked their comeback in Wisconsin, in Madison against Wisconsin for Penn State. But it's not like we've seen a lot of him. But he was, James Franklin on his own goes, hey, this is how fucked up things are. Here's a guy who's our backup, and we're about to play in the college football playoff. And he's got to transfer because of the dates, and it sucks. He's a great kid, great player, but I get why he's got to do it because that shows how messed up the system is. In other words, their backup wasn't like, in all due respect to Drew Pine, but what Missouri had going on last year. That was, wow.
Auburn game was a prime example.
Whew, cats and dogs, holy shit. Now, hey, what he did against Oklahoma, God bless. But point being, they had a capable backup at Penn State, and he needed to lead them in a comeback in Madison, Wisconsin on a Saturday night game. Not an easy thing to do. He did it. But that would mean Sam Horn must be incredible if they're going to go, fuck, we brought this guy in, we paid him a bunch of money, but...
And made leaps.
Horn's the guy, right. So that's where I'm coming from on that. Who you got winning the Indy 500? Believe it or not, I actually have an opinion on it because we just did a FanDuel spread zone. Riz, Stalter, and myself. And they've been producing winners, and Jackson comes on there and goes 14-2 in the NCAA tournament, and I'm the cooler. It's unbelievable. And I'm like doing a bunch of research on the golf stuff. I knew that there were only, I shouldn't say I knew, there were 12 players who mathematically could win the PGA Championship last week. And I know Rahm fell off, but two of them were Scheffler and DeChambeau. Rahm was one of them, and it was based on two numbers. Ball speed because of the distance and how the ball wasn't going to roll out with the rain and the fairways, and then because they had the sub-air system under their greens, the greens would be dried out and firm. But the ball wouldn't be rolling out, meaning you have more distance, and that means you're hitting a lower lofted club, and so you also needed somebody who hit a high ball. And so that, including some names you'd never heard of, like David Puig, who's a live golfer, but he was one of the 12, in addition to the obvious ones of Scheffler, McIlroy, DeChambeau, Rahm. They were all listed in there. But another one was Min Woo Lee. And so it's all said and done. Stalter and Riz, who would be the first ones to say are casual golf guys, they listen to me throw out all this data, and then I go, my play, Min Woo Lee. And Stalter might have fallen out of his chair. And so we're in the middle of a conversation on TMA today, like what, 6-7 days after we did probably 8 days after we did the podcast. Nice pick on Min Woo Lee, you fuck.
Maybe
It's out of nowhere. We're talking Cardinal defense at 10:45 on TMA.
Yeah.
It'll live for me with me forever. And I had Justin Thomas at the Masters. So I do all this golf research. So watch me get my Indy 500 play. I did read about it, and it kind of brought me back. I think I said this to you. I don't know when I say these things, and I apologize because I know that people listen to, not everybody listens to both of our podcasts, so if things are repetitive, I want to acknowledge that I know they're repetitive. That Stanford Steve, and I love that Scott Van Pelt podcast, I get the sense that because of gambling, he does watch everything.
Sure.
So even in my bets for real are like $10. Like I bet $100 on the over on the strikeouts yesterday of Brad Summer, whatever the guy's name was.
Summer, yeah.
So I covered that. That's about as high as I'm going, but. Usually it's just like, okay, I'll put $10 on a loan just for the fuck of it. Don't really give a shit. I've got some money in my account to play with. I'll probably never collect $1 of it. But I get the sense that's what Stanford Steve does. And that's kind of like, okay, just because I don't have a team that I'm pulling for, it not only does it get me interested, but then it causes me to do research. And so even though I'll be the first one to say I don't know a damn thing about auto racing, it's like, okay, I'll be anxious to see what happens. And if it's on and I'm not doing anything, yeah. I'll watch the Indy 500.
You know what I love is, let's say a couple buddies are going to have a couple drinks, so you're going to be a bunch of sports on, and you all, pick a bet that you're all going to play together. Everyone, it's not going to be like, oh, yeah, I'll throw that in my parlay. No. Everyone takes one play. You can do whatever you want after. Everyone takes one play, and everyone roots for it. Everybody in the group roots for it. Super fun.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
When we were at the bachelor party thing in the Ozarks, it was during the Derby. Our buddy was like, gung-ho that this horse was going to win. And so all of us put money on this.
And he was on journalism, and he lost, and he was heartbroken.
Sandman, who I think might have finished dead last.
Nice play.
But it's really fun because his horse is going, and everyone's rooting for the same thing. It was pretty fun, so I like that.
It's just, I think, for those who don't gamble,
Is that your ball mark?
my ball marker,
I recognize that sound.
Dip it, replace it. You recognize the sound?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there it is.
I got one of those.
That's that and a pocket racket is what I fiddle with while I'm broadcasting.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck I was going to say. What was I saying?
That was the most QFTA moment ever. You drop your ball mark, and then you completely lose track of what you were talking about
100%.
8 seconds ago.
Probably wasn't that important.
Fuck it, betting.
Gambling.
Yeah.
I find these things to be intriguing to me, both gambling and pornography. And honestly, here's where I trace them: religion. That's where I trace what I consider to be problems to religion, sex, which I think then is also under the umbrella of insecurity.
Yeah. Insecurity
about death, insecurity about subconsciously not procreating, and then that leads to essentially Instagram.
Yeah. The birth.
But I think for those who don't gamble, and then also might have been raised perhaps in a religious situation, and these things were deemed forcefully or passive-aggressively as being bad, even though there isn't necessarily a reference to Eloise in the Bible. I've read it. Yeah. I did a lot of Catholic school and studied religion at the University of Missouri as well. But these things, saying the word fuck is also somehow now, I don't understand how these things get associated with Christianity, but hey, I don't know, and I know you're not the guy to ask, so fuck if I know. but that if you gamble, that you have a gambling, like people like Martin, I think, thinks I have a gambling problem. But I mean, I'm not like, I'm not saying like he like thinks we need to like do something and have like a Christopher moment. But like I can't, I just enjoy, but it's for a minimal amount of money. Yeah. And I mean, for real, even me and you, if we're going to go play golf, can I play golf without us having some kind of bet? Of course I can. But if you ever like want to beat me before you figure out whatever the hell you got going on, which causes you to hit the ball incorrectly, high and spinny, which you're going to figure out without a doubt, and we're going to look back on the days when I beat you and going, oh, wow, remember that? Because you're going to be beating the shit out. But in this moment, if you wanted to beat me, it would be, I don't really care. Let's not play for anything. At that moment, you become the favorite.
Yeah, you look like me on the day where I don't have my Adderall.
Because I can't, I'm playing a guy in our club championship thing next week. Great guy. I mean, if you could get 100 to 1 on me, I would go. I wouldn't. Right. I wouldn't mess with it.
You're Min Woo.
It's like, I think he's like a +1, and right now I'm a 5.8. I think with a soft cap, which means I should be higher. Yeah, but they've like gone, okay, that's enough. It's like if I get to the 15th hole, that's kind of like an accomplishment. But I'm like, I need to like. Even though it's a club, and you don't get pops, so you just play straight in this flight. And I think I'm the 14 seed. I'd be like, hey, you mind if we play for like just a $10 NAS?
I'll probably be like, okay.
Yeah, I'll be like, okay, fine, fuck it. Right. I go, but can I get my pops in the NAS? I'll be getting 6 pops, and I'll be like, fuck yeah, I won that. He goes, no, I won. I go, well, I won it in our game.
Yeah, auto press.
Yeah. And I don't know what to say. When you played with guest with me last year.
Yeah.
And remember, we were like getting our asses kicked, and I was just like totally checked out.
Side action season.
And then I said, hey, you mind if we? And he goes, fine, I'll do it. And they were in the mix, and then whatever. I think we might have. I don't know if we have the match or won it.
Won the side.
And it was because in the final 3 holes, I'm like, all right. And it was a $10 a hole bet. I mean, it was a. I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how many
you need
things.
A carrot dangled in front of you, essentially.
But isn't that like? I'll say this. I know I don't have a gambling problem because I know my financials and I track every fucking thing to the dollar. I wake up every morning and I like jerk off to Quicken, and that's hot.
That's because Ella Reese is too busy hiking.
I don't know what's going on with her, and I'll talk about that in a minute. That's a good tease. But I love tracking expenses. I'll be honest with you. And I'm not going to do this.
You're not.
I actually do allocate for gambling,
sure.
But I've been profitable the last few months. But either way, the amount of money I allocate for gambling, because I budget for it, is so like nothing. Mm-hmm. But again, I enjoy just having the sweat.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I get it.
And yesterday with the Brat Summer guy pitching for the Tigers, the edge was not that he's just like the Cardinals are strikeout prone, even though they did start Gorman. The edge was the money, the line was set improperly because the thought process in Las Vegas was he was going to pitch an inning, and the guys who, quote, knew better either somehow knew, like a Sam Ace Rothstein thing, or knew that in the starting spot with the Tigers, I think they had to put both Casey Mize and Reese Olson on the IL, I think.
Mize for sure.
That they weren't going to have him pitch an inning, especially when they didn't have an off day today, and therefore the fact that the over-under was 1.5, it was a bad number.
Right.
And so I might have lost it, but again, the process was right.
Right. Well, we looked at his logs, and he hadn't pitched more than an inning in like 3 weeks.
He hadn't pitched more than an inning, yeah. April 26th, I think, was the date, but he did pitch in those spots 5 innings last year.
Right.
And so they were like, you got to hammer this because these don't happen too often.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll put 100 on that just to like, because I'm, like I said, I'm playing with this. But it's basically Blues blood money, from when the Jets beat them and I had my emotional risk management. But so there's that. And then there's the pornography thing. And that one, I don't know what the hell the deal with that is. But I think the same route on like going, I had this gambling problem is porn addict. And it's like, no, I'm going to beat off every once in a while, and this is who I enjoy beating off to. If you got a problem with it, that's fine. Don't beat off to her. It's not going to affect me either way. But that is like I like the show, but they would always have porn stars on. And I got to be honest with you, they've been on this motherfucker since July 2004. The number of porn star interviews is probably, like, of the shows we've done, how many times a porn star has been on it, I don't know how many shows that means we've done. If you multiply 250 by 21 is the answer. I'll go ahead and do it. What do you think that is, Jackson? Can you do that from the...
No.
You're scared by it, I can tell.
Terrified because I'm going to give some number and then get razzed for it.
5,250.
5,250.
I would say, for the hell of it, I'll say we've had a show 50 times where we've had a porn star on it. Where in my mind, I'm like, I know that's not true, but just for the sake of it.
We have drops of every single one, and I can show you 50 different porn star drops.
Which would mean we've had a porn star on 0.009% of shows.
Whatever, porn boy.
Thank you.
You think the rise of amateur porn is really kind of hidden that, because people don't have the stars in their head anymore as much?
I don't follow the question. I really want to indulge you, but I don't follow the question.
Well, with OnlyFans...
Oh, I see.
The term porn star is kind of shifted.
Yeah, when the show started, Jenna Jameson was running things.
Right.
But the Lisa Ann thing, I didn't realize she was as popular as she was. As crazy as that sounds,
yeah,
like your generation that's her.
It's Alexis Texas and her.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I think Alexis Texas is name-based. It's a really good porn name.
Yeah. Because it was Jenna Jameson from my generation, and without question, I still feel like she was the one who had the biggest mainstream attention. But anyway, the whole thing, and this wouldn't just be from people interested in hiring me. Mm-hmm. This would be from some audience members. No, I don't like when they have the porn star. Is it okay? I mean, there's it's like now, you guys, all you do is talk blues. I'm like, well, 101 has a deal with the blues, and so there's an interview at 8:15. There's also, I think, 11 other segments. But if you want to get worked up over it, right. I mean, if you think Jackson's demanding that at 8:15 we talk hockey, you're welcome to that belief. Right. I don't know what to tell you.
Everyone's in the show, everyone's like, Jackson, can we please just not do hockey? I'm like, no, fellas, we have to do it. We're doing hockey.
So I never understood it, but whatever. I trace it back to religion, but not all religion. Just mine, right. Not yours. Mine.
Well, the 10 Commandments are going up in Texas public schools. So.
Oh, is that right?
Someone's trying to carry a bill.
God bless. Let's see. It's a good Catholic church picnic when they've got lights strung up around the poker stand. Couldn't agree more. And that is doffing his cap to St. Gabriel's. Tim, I'm playing TPC Tampa Bay this weekend. Any advice for playing golf in Florida? What's the play for sunscreen? As a Mick, I'm 30, sunblock. I might even be too conservative. Yeah. And I would imagine you will be dealing... I haven't played a lot of golf on the Gulf side, but God, one of my favorite courses is either Captiva or Sanibel. I don't know which side of it is. I think it's Sanibel. Sanctuary. You've played it?
Uh-huh.
So we've talked about that. Then.
Oh, yeah. Sanctuary is as good as it gets.
It's Bermuda grass.
Yeah. Oh.
And so here I actually do have a tip, surprisingly.
Yep.
If you're not used to playing Bermuda grass, I mean, it's just tight, and the way it's growing can dictate if you're hitting into it or with it, and if you don't know how to see it, it can throw you off, which means you can either chunk it or thin it. If you're around the green, and I'd even go as far as 25 yards out, fuck it, grab the putter, and just don't deal with it.
Texas wedge that bitch.
That's the thing.
Or learn, take your wedge and
open up the face?
Drag it, before you hit, drag it across the ground.
Feel which
and if
way
it's
going.
grabbing on it real hard, that means you're hitting into the grain, so you got to take a little earth. And if you're smooth, you're hitting with the grain, then hit it normally.
No.
I had to learn that the hard way. I was a pretty good golfer when I got down to Florida.
What's the lowest your index has gotten?
6, I think. It's my second semester.
I don't understand.
My second semester of college. But when I first got down there in August of 2016, I would play good golf, and I would get around the green, and I would look like I didn't have motor function. I would...
So you got yippy?
Yeah, because the first chip I ever took, it didn't move. The ball just stayed on the ground. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And these guys who lived in Florida, they're like, oh, you've never played chipped off Bermuda. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, we don't have it here.
No,
so we'll have
very
bent.
Places, yeah.
You can get bent, although what has bent? Gateway, Fox Run.
St. Albans have bent.
Does it?
I think.
I've never played. Oh, I have played St. Albans, but I don't remember. It would make sense to me.
Yeah, I can't think of anywhere else.
So usually you're going to be having Zoysia
yeah.
in St. Louis, St. Louis area, Midwest. But you go south, you can grow Bermuda. And it's just a different time than Florida, certainly.
And the water table's so high, too, that there's not... if you chunk one, it's not like you're digging deep into the earth. It's going to kind of bounce off eventually, and it's tough to.
But if you can chip on Bermuda, then you can certainly chip on
yes.
Zoysia. Just fluffs it up. It's
Big
easy.
Time.
Let's see what else I got. Wanted to ask your opinion on the Battlehawk popularity in the St. Louis area. Being a person that has been supporting the team since the beginning, I find it great entertainment in St. Louis. Here's my macro. My micro is I'm happy that people enjoy it. My macro is, as somebody who used to travel with the Rams, and that's where me and Martin and Doug all fall. And Martin, hell, was even more involved with Fox and the coaches show and all of that. It saddens me that, and this is my thing. This isn't a commentary. This is my own psychological inner workings, which are obviously a little fucked. It saddens me that, and I think a lot of it is self-inflicted, but I think it's just like, oh, Kroenke, he fucked us. Oh, Bidwell, he fucked us. And I'm like, I think we got blood on our hands. That now our market, and we're a team that won a Super Bowl and won an NFC championship, that building now hosts minor league football. I mean, because I think I probably could psychoanalyze it better, kind of like my religion thing on porn and gambling. Again, this is my own thing, but I just hate to see it. I think it's also why, even though I'm not, if people want to cheer for the Chiefs, I don't fucking care. But I'm like, God, I also remember, and when it's not that far back in time, when Kansas City's whole thing with the rivalry towards St. Louis was built in envy. Mm-hmm. And also, I think, perhaps for those who were old enough, the fact that their only championship was a championship that, hey, if it would have happened in St. Louis, it would have been brutal here too, was one that probably doesn't happen without one of the most famous blown calls. It's not like it's the Royals fans' fault, but they got to catch shit for that, even though they didn't do anything wrong. And now St. Louis is like on the cuck chair on that rivalry, and like, yeah, Sporting KC, the rival was in town. And then we have Gabe on, and I go, oh, well, I guess you're going to rub it in our faces about Sporting KC. He goes, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know what happened that you're talking about, but if that means we won, I guess I'm happy.
Yeah, that's smart.
Like, yeah, we used to, me and Doug and Steve Savard, and had two producers and a full-time editor, used to do an hour-long show, and we would have to cut things out on Sunday nights. And so did Channel 5. Channel 4 and Channel 5 had these Sports Plus, and ours was Sports. The fuck was our show called? Martin
Sunday?
Sports Final. Sports Sunday. Thank you. Yeah. When did you work there? Sports Sunday. And we had to cut things out because we had so much to get to.
Right.
And now it just saddens me. Again, it'd be one thing if I'm like, we got fucked. It's another thing when I'm like, poor leadership. Number one, if there was a Family Feud, number one answer, has played a role in this. And that just makes me sad. And so I think, again, I'm psychoanalyzing myself live on a podcast, but I think that's why the Chiefs thing and the Battlehawks thing makes me go, not because I'm like, I fucking hate the Chiefs. I don't care. If anything, I like watching them. That's the honest answer. And the Rams were moving, whether Clark Hunt did his thing or not. I just think I'm amazed how people just somehow wave that off, but whatever, doesn't matter to me. And then now we got a minor league football team, and it's like a thing here, and I'm just like, God. That just makes me sad because I realized 10 years ago there was a football team here, but barely. 20 years ago there was a playoff team here, and they probably, as far as an NFL team going back, if I could go back to 1990, usually like we go back to 2000, if there was an NFL team that would be the Atlanta Braves of they should have done more with what they have, it would be the St. Louis Rams of 1999 through 2005. And then had they done that, and it's interesting that Martin, who's very close to the situation, thinks this as well. I think there is a chance that they're still here. And I think that just changes. I don't know. I think that's at the core of. I think that's at the core of it. But to be crystal clear, it's not like I'm like down on the Battlehawks or anything like. It just saddens me. But I also think you probably have to be old enough, I guess, to Because for you, when I talk about the greatest show on turf, you're going to be able to only live it through watching YouTube.
Right.
But I mean, I was at those. I traveled with those teams. Those were the guys I was interviewing. I was in that locker room, both on the road and in St. Louis. I was at their practices. I knew those people. I knew the coaches. I knew the assistants. I mean, I'm in the gift shop with Lovie Smith in San Francisco, like a week before he gets hired. Where the fuck did he go?
Bears.
Bears. I mean, and then and that's the thing. It's tough to call yourself a top market when you don't have the NFL. And we can do whatever denial routine we want to do around here, but I can't shake that, and I also can't lie to people. I can't do it. I can't. It's okay. I think a team's coming back. It didn't happen, and I just, I keep hearkening back to this quote from Dan Dierdorf in 2007, well before Stan Kroenke had the majority. He's like, if our government and if our committees don't get on it, we're going to run into this team relocating. It's Dan Dierdorf in 2007, well before Stan Kroenke, and that's why I think let me put it this way. I think there are a number of people, and maybe some are no longer with us, but some certainly are, who are very grateful that the narrative in St. Louis is it was all Stan Kroenke's fault. That's what I would say. Yeah. And I think that is a convenient get-out-of-jail free card relative to what transpired. Now, I want to make this clear. I don't think that's that this was all them and otherwise, but it's just another case of St. Louis not being proactive, St. Louis being reactive, and I think part of that is oftentimes the people who are elected or become the faces in the market are those who kind of stay in lane, and we don't have people coloring outside the lines who get to achieve positions of power. And from my standpoint, I'm more of a color outside the lines guy. Let me see what else we got here. I'd be curious to see the turnout for a parade when the Battlehawks win the championship this June. That's from Roland Pollock's Wrench. Jackson, what do you think that would look like?
I don't know. Would they do a parade here? They don't, they're seldom here. I don't know. I guess. I bet it's got pretty decent attendance.
They get 30,000 pretty consistently.
Yeah,
Would we have 50,000 people at the parade?
Yeah, I think there would be. If it was on a nice Saturday, hang out, yeah. I probably wouldn't go, personally.
Then why is that? You'd be reviewing Knicks Pacers game film?
Don't go. Just, don't necessarily go to a lot of games. But if those who love
You're at the lake that weekend?
No, although I would describe myself as lake curious. Maybe not Lake of the Ozarks, but
bodies of water in general, just not to our southwest.
Yeah, the idea of having a lake house, I think, is pretty cool. I like the aesthetic. I like the smell.
Of a lake.
A lake house.
Like house.
Timber, fresh air, a little gasoline. Yeah, kind of into it.
All right, so Jackson is lake curious. So if there are any lakes out there, Jackson.
Changes of elevation I like, and that's, a staple of the lake.
The core of an addiction is the inability to stop despite negative life consequences. You can still enjoy things without being labeled an addict, or we'd all be fucked. That's from Allie Dubb, and she's a real-life girl. So therefore, I would tell you this. I have been addicted to something in my life, but it was not sports gambling, although maybe there were flashes of that years ago. But like a weekend's worth of oh my God, I'm down. Holy shit, I got to now do something where, oh my God, if I lose this, I'm down this much. How the fuck did this happen? Oh God, I'm going to now place a bet on the Oklahoma over. Holy shit. That type of thought process, but not like a week in, week out thing. And not pornography. I would say poker. I would say from 2005 to maybe, I don't even know, maybe when it was shut. I don't think so though, but that I was addicted to it. I really do think so, because it definitely had negative life consequences. I said earlier something about, I don't even know how, my Ellery's OnlyFans budget and my gambling budget, that I track every dollar in and every dollar out. I mean, not only for businesses, but for our personal. And if I were to look back on how much money I lost on Poker Stars from 2005 through 2007, it would be stunning. In a way, I guess I'm glad I don't know.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about negative life consequences? Holy shit. I mean, and oftentimes when I'm talking about Mark Hanna, sponsor the podcast, talk about financial advisors. Had I had a financial advisor, even though that's not why I say I wish I had met Mark Hanna by then, Had I had a financial advisor and they would have gone, okay, what's going on here? And there would have been like, okay, hey, man, you can't be doing this. And not only the amount of money I was losing, the amount of time.
Right, that's the other thing.
And then it's isolation time, too.
Right.
And then inevitably you get blown up. And by blown up, I mean you lose. Because I was playing tournaments. And then that would be the addiction.
What about caramel M&Ms?
That was very odd. I don't know what that was about. And then I shook it. And then I'm like, I'll get back on it.
I'm going to get back on the horse.
And for somebody who tracks everything that they eat.
Were you putting those in there?
Oh, my, yeah.
And even that not scurrying you from doing it?
Well, I mean, I stayed around $1.55, so it wasn't like I put on weight. The thing that I think, going back, that I look at, like even now, if we're at a restaurant and I have like chocolate cake or something at even like 9 o'clock, much less later than that, I'm like, I'm not going to sleep well now. I'm just fucking pounding like a bag. And I'm not talking about like a tiny, I'm talking about family size.
Yeah, big boy.
At 8:30 when I get up at 5? Like, what the and that was just a couple of years ago. Yeah, what the fuck? Let's see what I got. I got to help coach T-ball tonight for 4 to 6-year-olds. I do keep them into the game and not playing in the dirt. Or maybe he's asking, how do I keep them in the game? I don't have an answer on that. I doff my cap to those involved in youth sports. The league is praying that the Battlehawks make it to the championship. The stadium has 30K each game, but the lower bowl is not as full as last year. More people buy the cheaper seats, in my opinion. That's from Chris Moody. Full disclosure, I'm a 2-year season ticket holder. If the Battlehawks win the title, just have a party at the South County Hot Shots. That's from John Scores, who was mad at you for banning Larry Nickel from the
nonsense.
He had a wonderful recap this week.
I thought it was great.
I didn't even go into the emails. I'll have those saved. Let's see. I'll do one. Hunchback of Von Castle. If you could go back in time and have Shad Khan successfully buy the Rams, ensuring they stay in St. Louis, but it also means the Cardinals will eventually be sold and relocated to Nashville in, say, 2030. Would you take that deal knowing what you know now about the current state of sports in America? That's from the Hunchback of Von Castle. That's a nice question for QFTA. Tip of the cap, Hunchback of Von Castle. What do you say?
I'm sorry. Can I request a reread?
Is this Adderall season?
Well,
it's wearing off.
Well,
I felt like you had a bounce back in the 10 o'clock hour, maybe a little bump in the bathroom.
Yeah. It's a quick reread. That's all I need.
If you could go back in time and have Shad Khan successfully buy the Rams, ensuring they stay in St. Louis, but it also means the Cardinals will eventually be sold and relocate to Nashville in, say, 2030, would you take that deal knowing what you know now about the current state of sports in America?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. No.
I don't think I would either.
No, as much as, and I loved the Rams. I mean,
you did. The Jackson and bullshit about
And so if you had asked me this question in, 2016, in spring of 2016, fresh off of that, I probably would have said yes. But yes, I get where the state of sports are now, but the state of sports in St. Louis, what the Cardinals mean to this place, and there's very few pro sports franchises like that are so heavily ingrained, interwoven into the city's identity that removing that would be like removing a part of you. And as corny, as sentimental as that might sound, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I'd still say no. It's like the Cardinals are untouchable in that way. As much as I would love to have the NFL still here, holy hell.
Yeah, I'm just not. I'm not there.
Yeah,
on the Cardinals moving.
It's hard.
It's a nice question.
Really, it's about as good as you can get in terms of like
putting the man to the test.
Yeah, for sure.
I tip my cap on it, but I think I would stay with the Cardinals. And I guess part of it is kind of going back to the Battlehawks Kansas City thing. Is if the Cardinals were to move, that you want to talk about what would that mean for our region? If the Cardinals were moving in 2030.
Oh my God.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Shad Khan, Kroenke doesn't exercise his right of first refusal however many years ago that he did, 15, 16 years ago. But 2 decades later, the state of affairs is so bad that the Cardinals move. I mean, the Cardinals in St. Louis, Green Bay, and the Packers, I don't know. So if that were to ever happen, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'd buy a stock in St. Louis. It might not be in my lifetime. I don't know. I think it will be. But but I'd buy stock in St. Louis. I think there's an awareness now of issue. By the way, because I can talk about it on this show, I have to tell you, and I didn't vote for her, but I don't live in the city. I've been impressed with Kara Spencer handling the tornado situation this week.
A lot of accountability.
Yes.
Yeah, thought so too.
I really have, and that's all I got.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about that on.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a pre-written statement.
No, if anything, she's having a tough time staying composed.
Yes.
That's got to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that position, you can't be doing that. John Boehner was the Speaker of the House, and he would weep like Dick Vermeil anytime he spoke, and he, was kind of unapologetic about it. So some people just kind of have that. Well, she's seen some things. She's talked to people who have lost family members or have lost everything, and that hits her.
Yeah.
So I'd say, she cares.
Right.
The accountability, I think she's going, okay, I gotta take responsibility. That's part of being a leader. It's
Absolutely.
not necessary. And then maybe privately she knows that might not be the situation, but publicly, buck stops here. Harry S. Truman, that's what she's doing. And listen, I'm not saying, okay, she's going to lead us to glory. I'm just saying I like what I've seen in a very unfortunate circumstance. All right, time for us to shut it down. Little Jackie Papers for Jackson Bennett Burkett. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been the Tim McKernan Show, presented to you by James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, Seth Goldcamp of Design Air Heating and Cooling, and Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies.